Hello, everybody, and welcome to Planet Sky FF, the world where everything revolves around £50,000 and Sky Fantasy Football. My name's Suj. With me, I've got my co-host, Daniel. Daniel, how are you?
Listen, I'm sure for everybody else this would be a better podcast and more experienced analysis of Sky Fantasy Football if it was Dan Cox rather than me. But my name's James Suj.
That's not why I'm calling you Daniel, though.
No, why you call me Daniel?
You've not been all over Twitter this morning, James.
Who's Daniel?
So, our Health Secretary, Matt Hancock?
Yep.
Went on Sky Sports, Sky News this morning and congratulated Daniel Rashford on his campaign to get...
Oh, my God. Did he really?
Yes. What a twat.
This country...
Yeah, it's been a great campaign by Danny Rashford or some nonsense like that. If you go on Twitter this morning, you can tell that you've probably spent about 6 or 7 hours yesterday recording football content and woke up this morning. Because for the listeners, it's like 8:30 in the morning. Haven't had a chance to look. Like Daniel Rashford is trending on Twitter right now because of that knobhead.
Gosh. I was still going with Luke at midnight last night, mate. Bloody hell.
I was listening for quite a while, and then then it was bed. But yeah, Daniel Rashford is trending right now because of that idiot. But yeah, there we go. So you know how it is. Daniel, James, John.
I think we should start this by mentioning in passing the news that got leaked to us in the stream that I was doing last night on YouTube, which is based on a virtual game from 19 years ago. So many of the Sky guys who haven't listened to us for a few months are going to be like, what is going on? Don't worry about it. And there's no point going to look for it. You won't learn a lot. But we had a very reliable source tell us last night, and we trust it, that Aguero will start tonight and Otamendi won't. We don't have any more information than that. I can't tell you that it's 100% true, but I do very much trust the source that it's come to. Decide what you want to do with it. I've got Otamendi and not got Aguero. So there's no benefit in it from me. I think Otamendi stays for the night on the hope that he gets a 1-pointer. And I think I'm going to go without Aguero. It's bad.
I've got Aguero. For Sky, I've got Aguero and Otamendi. FPL wasn't buying Otamendi anyway. And the Aguero-Sane dilemma will rage on. And it will probably rage on until... what's the deadline? 2 minutes before the deadline.
Well, at least we'll have the team news of Villa Sheffield United. I wonder how many people will fall back into line of going with a Dean Henderson or a Jack Grealish as captain tonight through fear on that Manchester City team.
Yeah.
I haven't got De Bruyne yet either. I just feel like my thinking is, and I've got, you and I are such a blessed to be in a position we've got more transfers than a lot of other people.
Yeah. But
I feel I only want to go with one at the minute, I think. And I think if I'm asking myself what's the better choice over the next 9, or let's say with Manchester City, 10 games, rather than just tonight, then I still think De Bruyne is the better choice than Aguero. But I don't know, man. Being 99% sure that he's going to start makes me want to get him in and captain him.
Yeah, I mean, Aguero can hurt people so badly.
And he's hurt Arsenal plenty of times before as well.
I feel like I'm going to upset a lot of people. Disappoint more than upset. It's one of those. I'm not angry. I'm disappointed when I don't pick Leroy Sané. Go with Aguero in every game, and I'll definitely be captaining Aguero in Sky today. So before tonight, I'm not planning on making any transfers before tonight, and I will have 6 runners and riders today, assuming that everybody plays. Which I don't think I'll have 6 runners and riders because of rotation in Man City. I've got 2 from Sheffield United, Dean Henderson and Baldock. I have Jack Grealish at Villa. And then I've got my triple City, Aguero, Mahrez and Otamendi. They're not the free City that you want off the bat, are they?
You definitely don't want Otamendi in there.
Nah, you do.
Like
definitely
I said,
don't think he's going to play.
I think he stays tonight on the basis of a 1-pointer for me. I'm likely to go Pereira, Richarlison and Salah to De Bruyne, Grealish and Aubameyang. That's my plan. And then add Fernandes in for Otamendi on Friday night. That's where I'm at plan-wise at the moment. Then add Ismail Assar Saturday and Nick Pope Monday, which is the plan I went through last week. I haven't changed that as yet. This Aguero news is potentially making me want to do a little bit of a rethink. But I don't think I'm going to go down that route. It gives me a bad imbalance having Aguero at what is he 12.1. It just gives
Expensive.
me a bad imbalance. And I think I want to come it straight off in Monday. I mean, after Monday when they play Burnley.
Yep.
And then there's kind of a bit of a gap till they play Liverpool on that. So I don't really want to be carrying two of them before much beyond Monday night. And I feel like De Bruyne in and out, it's just once he's in, I think. Whereas I don't feel that way about Aguero. And look, I've got 14 transfers left. It will be 11 as it stands come tonight, which I realise is a lot more than other people. But I'm still very conscious of what I'm doing with them, considering a week on from recording last week and on the day that we're restarting, we haven't got any additional news on fixtures.
No, that's the frustration.
So, I mean, I can only really, in terms of a transfer perspective, I can only really plan up to sort of the next 8 days, really. I can't really plan much further than that at the moment.
Yeah, I mean to say, I'm still. It feels crazy with 16 transfers and but so many match days ahead that I'm not making any transfers today. I've got Bruno Fernandes ready to cover me off on Friday night, and I've got captaincy coverage almost every day. Other than I think I want some Liverpool coverage, so I will probably end up making only 2 transfers or 3 transfers in the next 6 or 7 days. Pereira has to go because obviously he's injured, and Doherty will come in. And then I may want to beef up my Liverpool captaincy coverage if I'm not happy with Van Dijk. But other than that, I'm fairly comfortable just waiting and seeing what happens, and then making a lot of moves in the last kind of 3 weeks.
I think waiting as a general is a really good idea at the moment for those who are particularly struggling on their transfer account. I think, like, if you've got Pereira, he's got to go. Like, don't wait. When I say he's got to go, it doesn't have to be for one of the 4 teams that's playing tonight, but he's got to go for whoever you want to be. If it's Harry Maguire or whatever, right? You should make that transfer on Friday, for example, in my opinion. You just got to look at it and go, right, even if he does nothing for 9 game weeks, 2 points, so it's 18 points. Like, it's absolutely worth a transfer. You can't look beyond that. So he's got to go. But otherwise, unless you've got players in there who are really bad, like Otamendi would be my example, and Fred is the other one, then I'm looking at it and going, right, well, if Otamendi gets me 1 point tonight, great, then he's going. And Fred can give me 2 points Friday night, and then he's going on Saturday. That's where I'm looking at it at the moment. Otherwise, I think holding on to players is a really, really good idea at the moment until we've got more information on fixtures. And obviously,
which is the most important thing, right?
And form. Because none of us really know how any of these players are going to come back into this, right? We just don't know what's going to happen. We can use the little bit of analysis we know from the Bundesliga in terms of there's obviously been a higher proportion of away wins, etc. We can use what we know from the amount of substitutes that are being used there, and we can use what we know from the Premier League season. But essentially, this is it's like day one, isn't it? It doesn't feel like the opening day of the season, and it's not.
Pre-season.
But it basically is. And we haven't even got that. We haven't even got the pre-season to go on. What have we learned? Bruno Fernandes is on penalties. That's basically all we've learned from the pre-season friendlies. We don't really know much more than that.
No.
I think a good idea, Suj, with that in mind, is just to have a run through of teams and who we think is the best asset from them. Because
regardless of price.
Well, no, absolutely considering budget involved. We can't just pick a forward from each team. We're talking about best value asset from each club. Yep. Because people are looking to spread over several clubs now. People who are sitting there on, say, 4 Liverpool might hold as far as next Wednesday with the Palace game, but they ain't going to be holding 4 Liverpool assets beyond that, I don't think.
No. You're right, yeah, and this is the time that you will want to spread that a little bit more. So, let's do it. And then we've got a handful of Twitter questions that we'll get through as well. Not too many today because I think obviously with the tight turnaround and what have you, people is just in that kind of holding pattern mode. Let's go top to bottom in order of the Premier League table right now, shall we? Or did you want to go alphabetically?
I was just going to go alphabetically, mate.
All right, let's do alphabetically.
Some are straightforward. They don't need a discussion. Arsenal is Aubameyang.
Yeah.
Aston Villa is Grealish.
Yeah.
There's no further discussion on that.
No, I agree with you on both of those. Yeah, I don't think the thing with Aubameyang, obviously, he is expensive. Grealish is quite good value. Do you own Grealish at the moment?
I'm getting him tonight.
Okay,
yeah, I think it's critical. He goes in, he stays in, and nothing changes that. I think he's the talisman for them, isn't he?
He's not cheap, 7.9 million, but I think you're right. You're right there.
Yeah, that's been a problem value for most of the season, and he's more than some others in that area, granted. But put it this way, he won't be 7.9 million next season if Villa stay up, or definitely not if he goes to a bigger club, right? He's going to be near. He's going to be nearer the 10 million mark, mate.
What about the Bees? Bournemouth?
Oh, it's brutal, mate. Really,
Brooks,
really is.
I mean, we talked about David Brooks coming back in to the team with Ryan Fraser looking like he's on his way. Brooks could be a decent
really
option.
Could be a shout, at 8.1 million.
I mean, Brooks more expensive than Grealish, though.
Yeah, I mean, but it's the sort of value you can probably work a way to have them both. But actually, yeah, if you pin me, I'd probably say that as a shout. I think the only other one is Ramsdale, and I think there's better keeper options.
You don't think the likes of Josh King or Callum Wilson represent any value for anybody?
It's too much. It's too much, in my opinion. One of the blessings with Bournemouth, though, and I think they become a team very much to avoid, is the fixtures that they've got. So, obviously, Palace is on the Saturday. They've got Newcastle on the Wednesday night in game week 32. I'm going to use match day 32, where there's a lot of other teams playing. They play Wolves in 31, which is also another night where there's a load of teams playing, and you'd obviously favour Wolves. Now, looking at the remaining games after that, Manchester United, Tottenham, Leicester, Man City are the next four. Now, if it's going to be a single game day, you're going to go with one of those four guys, aren't you? Yep. So I think actually Bournemouth fall into the category of ignore completely. They finished with Southampton and Everton. So it's only were there to be a concern about game week 37 against Southampton, in which case I think you'd force in Danny Ings, wouldn't you, if it came to it?
If you really were going to, I would agree with you.
So you can just write Bournemouth off.
Brighton?
It's got to be Dan Burn, isn't it, from the value perspective?
4.6
million.
So cheap.
79 points. Like, he's not going to often get you much more than the 2-pointer, but it will do what it needs to do, and it obviously allows you other funds. You almost scrap his points, I think, mentally, and just go, anything he gets is a bonus.
A 4.6, the pricing in this is so different to FPL. A 4.6 playing defender is a great filler. We had Gilbert at the beginning of the season with Villa and what have you. Yeah, I mean, Dan Burn definitely stands out. I just think, like, Lewis Dunk, if you think about it, 7.9, you can't justify a £3.3 million difference between the two of them. Or the likes of Trossard or Mopé or whatever. It's just too expensive.
I'll tell you what I'd say. I've been really against getting people at that value this season. I think if I end up with Aguero today, if I decide, shit, I've got to do it, I think I'll end up getting Dan Burn in as well.
Okay.
And just doing it. And leaving me then with more power.
What about Burnley? They're all... there's no cheapies in Burnley.
Burnley's absolutely obvious, in my opinion. And it's the most locked-in transfer, even more than the three I'm planning today, is Nick Pope. Absolute certainty for me to go to him on Monday night. Even though it's Man City, I'm not bothered. The gain on Dean Henderson is massive, in my opinion. To get 2 games of Dean Henderson and then 3 games of Pope before Henderson plays again. I'm getting 5 goalkeeper games and Pope as a captaincy in Crystal Palace. So you could argue make it 6 in between Burnley and Sheffield United playing each other in like game week 33. So I'm going Pope.
I'm going to do that too.
What's interesting then to just factor in Burnley. And I know most people won't want to get off Henderson. I mean, Pope's 6.5, so from a value perspective, was it 0.1 difference as well? What Burnley does is therefore cover off and potentially rule out another team. So it would obviously rule out Crystal Palace that Monday night. If you get Burnley on that game night, you're not looking at Palace going on. Similar thing, right? So if you look at Palace's fixtures beyond Burnley, Leicester, Chelsea, Villa, Grealish, United, Wolves, Tottenham. Listen, if it comes to it, you're going with one of the other teams. So Palace just instantly fall in the bin for me. There's nothing to look at with them. If you go down, the Nick Pope route covers that so nicely, I think. So Nick Pope definitely for Burnley at 6.5.
What about Chelsea? Tammy Abraham sitting on 162 points this season, 13 goals, 4 assists. Decent.
Yeah, he's probably the value pick. Do we look again at, say, Mason Mount to
7.3.
To throw a name out there that we haven't seen all season again? Another one a little bit like David Brooks, Ruben Loftus-Cheek at 7.8 million. I don't fancy it, though. I need to know on the rotation. I think if I had to pick one now and go with it, it'd be Abraham. But a big mention for Reece James as well at 6.2 million. He's interesting. He's been a bit doubtful for Saturday, isn't it? So I don't think it's one to force in. But, yeah, do you know what? I'd probably go Reece James, actually.
What's he priced at? Let's have a look.
6.2.
That feels risky to me. I like Mason Mount. I'll be honest with you. If Mount's going to play, I think
We're
Mount's
all sick
the one
of Mason Mount.
Yeah, I know. If he plays, I'd probably say Mount at 7.3. But I'm not in a rush, let's say, to go to Chelsea and get any Chelsea players.
Yeah, agreed.
Do Palace offer any value to anybody, or are you really like ignore? I mean,
would
PVA at 7.9.
I would just completely avoid it. He's not a bad price. He's not a bad price PVA. Nah.
And he does like to do well at the end of the season.
We know this. Mm-hmm. I just feel like Palace Bournemouth are two where you run through the fixtures and you would definitely go in a different direction. As long as you start with that Burnley direction first. I realise for those with sort of 3-4 transfers, they're probably just going to scrap that game week. I get that. But then if Palace have future single game weeks, you're going to avoid it as well. So I think Palace are just complete avoid. I think the way Bournemouth's fixtures fall with who they're playing is the same as well. PVA would be the best shout, but not for me.
No. What about Everton? Richarlison's been 170 points is no joke. I'm surprised you're binning him today because he does get in amongst the bonus points. Even like the shop tiers and what have you. So let's call it tier points. 10.2 million is expensive. Everton have got decent fixtures though, and Richarlison's going to play.
Yeah, they're okay. Certainly from a fixture point of view, I can't argue that at all. But then, say the best looking fixture is Everton against Norwich, right? It's the same night Liverpool play Palace, so you're actually going to use him to captain him. I don't think you probably are. Then it's Leicester, Tottenham. Southampton's the interesting one. If that 34 goes in a single game week, that's the sort of one, if it moves to a single match day, becomes a bit of a nightmare potentially if people don't have Danny Ings or Everton coverage, because it's the sort of one I think you'll feel that's enough to want it. Their other fixtures, they've got Wolves, Villa. So, I'm thinking now I'm going to have the coverage here to block that off if necessary. So I think, again, they're probably avoidable. For me, Suj, it's a case of he's 10.2 million, and I'm probably not going to use him as a captain now at all. Therefore, I think I've got to come off. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, I feel differently. I feel like he's a set and forget for me. I feel like I don't need to worry about him. Like if I had my way, I would use all my transfers and just moving around my big hitter and just go from Aguero to Mane to Aubameyang to Aguero to Mane. Yeah, which I will. So Richarlison at that point just becomes leave him. Like he's there in my squad right now. I don't want to tinker around with him. Just leave him be at that kind of price point. But there's not anyone else really. I mean, Calvert-Lewin at 8 million, but if I've got Richarlison, I'm not going to have two Everton players. Forget about it.
In the next 3 days, I'm looking to force Aubameyang, De Bruyne and Bruno Fernandes in, and I'm already having a second thought about trying to force in Aguero as well. I mean, Richarlison and that basis has to become expendable for me, unfortunately. I don't particularly want to sell him, but it's the lesser of the evils, if you will.
Mm. What about Leicester City? I'm a Pereira owner who's 8.5. He's going to go for the doctor, but then not having Jamie Vardy can always hurt you.
Of
Having
course it
said
can.
that, Harvey Barnes at 7.2 was coming into a nice bit of form.
Yeah, and big shout again for Syunku as well. He does it on the tin, right?
6.2. Yeah, you're a Soju owner, right?
The thing is with Leicester as well, I foresee they've got a lot of fixtures where they're going to dominate the ball as well.
Mm.
So just running through Watford, Brighton, Everton, Palace, Arsenal, Bournemouth, Sheffield United, Tottenham, Man United, they could in theory dominate the ball in all of those matches. So as a Syunku owner, he obviously sits there for me, so I've probably got a bit of personal bias into that. But I think at 6.2 million, he's done the job really well, isn't he? Barnes is a good shout. Vardy it's always close your eyes if you're not an owner, absolutely. And just a shout out for James Justin, who's 6 million, who we assume is going to play in place of Ricardo Pereira at right back. But I don't think he's better picked than Syunku, which is just 0.2 difference.
Yeah, agreed with you on that. But I think
For those with big transfer, you could go with both. I'm not saying I won't end up with that way. The fixtures aren't awful, mate.
Can I add in one caveat on what we're saying about all of these players? Obviously, is that if the fixtures are announced for the last 6 or 7 game weeks, whatever it may be, and the likes of Palace and Bournemouth end up with 3 single game days, then maybe you want one as coverage so that you don't have to piss about with all of the others, potentially. So the fixtures could throw this list into a little bit of a upside down on its head. Not massively, but maybe a little bit. Liverpool, Van Dijk, 210
I
points.
think so.
He's in my squad. He's in your squad. No one's going to move him out. And Van Dijk's one of those where even in weeks where Liverpool have had really, really good fixtures, people haven't been stressing about getting Salah or Mane just because you feel comfortable in this game just giving the armband to Van Dijk, picking up the tier points and the clean sheet and just going away with it. So it's just a reliable, safe option that
VVD and Trent have got more points than Mane and Salah, right?
Exactly.
It's amazing. Yeah. So, and you're obviously making a saving there. I mean, you're saving 1.7 going Van Dijk over Salah, for example. I think my order of preference on that would be Van Dijk, Trent, Mane, Salah fourth. Would probably be my preference of choice on that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of experienced Sky managers would agree with you. I agree with you on that.
The only concern I have a little bit on Van Dijk, I feel better about it, the fact that they've gone out the Champions League. I would have been very cautious of it if they were still in the Champions League. I think he's not a player they should be messing about with really once the title's won. But I think that they're going to be so driven to pass City's 100 points and that, and it's not a given. They need to win 6 out of 9 to do it. It's not a given. We kind of assume in the form they've shown this year that they'll do it. But under this climate, is it going to be easy to win 6 games in 9? And they've got to play Man City in that run as well. If they lose to Man City, it's going to go right to the wire, whether they do it or not, basically. So, therefore, I think Van Dijk will play the majority of the games as well. So, for me, he's the best shout.
Manchester City, it's got to be Kevin De Bruyne, surely.
I think so, mate. Yeah.
Look at the points differential. You've got Kevin De Bruyne on 200 points, 11.2 million. And then you jump down to 148 points for AGUERO. So you're talking 30% more points.
Exactly. He's got another 33% on top of AGUERO.
52-point gap, and he's $1 million cheaper. And then everybody else is rotation risk.
And that's why my instinct tonight is actually still to go without AGUERO, because it's more than just one night.
Kevin De Bruyne, something else. 17 assists this season. Class act.
Mad. He's the sort of one I feel. I mean, he'll play under any circumstance and look world class.
Manchester United. It's the new boy, surely.
Bruno. I think so. Probably, yeah. At the 10.1, there's obviously the nagging problem over Pogba, who we think Pogba probably won't play Friday night at the moment, which is potentially good news for Fernandes owners. We don't really know the impact of what's going to happen. I know on Clash of the Correspondents yesterday, is my cap plan was saying he thinks that they'll probably actually move Fernandes a bit higher up the pitch. Now, you might think, oh, that's a good thing. I'm not sure that it is, because he was just dominating the game, wasn't he? He was everywhere. Do you want him sitting in a more stationary position? I think if it becomes that they move towards a diamond, which is what I suspect they might, as a short-term fix to get Fernandes and Pogba in the team together, then Fernandes plays at the tip of that, and that's brilliant. If he starts playing on the right-hand side of a front three, that's not good. So there is a risk in it. And of course, shout out as well for your mate. Was it Danny? 10.8.
Danny Rashford, yeah.
He's the better choice than Martial for this. I think, even despite being 0.8
because they're both
extra.
forwards, right? Yeah.
But then Fernandes is 0.7 cheaper than Martial, right? So
yeah, don't look past Fernandes.
I think Fernandes is the best shout. And a mention for them defensively: Wan-Bissaka 8.6, Maguire 8.9. These are reliable guys. United were very good defensively, basically pretty much since they lost to Burnley in late January at Old Trafford. Been much, much better. So I think Wan-Bissaka's another name to throw in the hat there.
Newcastle United, are they in the avoid bin?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
If you look through,
just look at it.
If you look through beyond 32, Dubravka would be the choice, but I don't think it's a better choice.
Other than that, no one's crossed 100 points in the Newcastle team, and then you're talking about Almiron and Fernandes, who are at 90 points. Everyone else is 70 points or less. They're just not great assets. Dubravka 161 is almost doubling the next best player.
There isn't anything in there that value-wise, even you could say, oh, that's a good cheap option, like a Longstaff. I mean, Matt Longstaff's 5.1. He's orange flagged at the moment. And he's not going to play regularly anyway. You know, would you take a punt on St. Maximin at 7.8? The Cells at 7.9? There's better, cheaper options, isn't there?
Yeah, loads of places. And we're not even restricted here to three picks.
The one that will cause a nightmare is the one that was going to cause a nightmare in the original schedule, which was Newcastle against West Ham in game week 33. Should that be moved to a single match day again? However, that's West Ham's fixture swing. So should that happen, I think you definitely go and look at West Ham rather than Newcastle.
Bowen or Antonio or any of those.
Yeah, whatever. You definitely go West Ham rather than Newcastle. So there are other fixtures after that. Man City, Watford. But again, I think you'd go Watford, wouldn't you? Go Sarr or something. Tottenham, Brighton, Liverpool. I think you'd go to the other teams. So Newcastle would be another one to throw into the ignore.
What about Norwich? Pookie, 7.8?
I think value-wise, it's probably Cantwell at 5.8. If you're looking to fill the holes, that 100 points at that value is all right, isn't it? Let's be honest.
6 goals, 2 assists, decent.
So I think, yes, but Pookie 7.8 is good. It really is good. A little bit like I've felt most of the season, I don't think I want to be at that Pookie Abraham value because I think it becomes a difficult escape. Even escaping into midfield at those values becomes tough if you've already got, say, Grealish in there and stuff. So I think Cantwell is the best shout.
Yeah. Sheffield United, Dean Henderson sits top of the tree in terms of points at the moment. I own Henderson and Baldock, so I'm just sitting on Baldock till the season's done, mate, to be honest, barring injury.
Yeah, and those certainly on fewer transfers, where I've talked about this move to Pope, those who are struggling on transfers should suffer it, I think, and just stay with Henderson. It probably won't be worth it. And therefore, Henderson remains the best choice. And then I think, yes, Baldock, after that, gets the edge on the other defenders.
We have Southampton things at 9 million, or would you think Redmond at 8.2? These again, avoid really, but if you need coverage, then Ings is the one you go to.
Definitely Danny Ings, and Danny Ings is a viable captaincy this Friday. You could make a strong case that Ings is a better choice than Spurs Man United players on Friday, especially with the benefit of you'll be able to know the Southampton team as well as they play at 6 o'clock. So Danny Ings needs to stay on the radar, mate. And even if you look further down the line, their last 3, Brighton, Bournemouth, Sheffield United might have nothing to play for. He's worth keeping an eye on. So it would still be Danny Ings. Those who've got Danny Ings at the moment are obviously keeping him Friday. Absolutely. Then on the other side, it's Arsenal and Watford. I think you're carrying him through what we know fixture-wise at the moment, and that's okay.
Let's talk about Spurs. Tell us, James.
None of them. I think it's probably Son at the value. That 1.5 saving off Kane, unless you're certain on what you want to do with Harry Kane, I think the correct answer here is Son. There's a case for Aurier at 8.1 because of the attacking returns, but I just don't see clean sheets in Spurs, even with a fairly average fixture list. There, as I've said previously, it's good, bad, good, bad, good, bad, basically. I think Son would be the choice. The entry point for Spurs, really, because of the distance between the West Ham and Sheffield United fixtures, is probably the Sheffield United game in 32, as long as you've probably got Leicester coverage in 31. And by then, we'll know how the Everton, Bournemouth and Arsenal fixtures hopefully land in terms of what comes afterwards. And it might be that at that point, to go in that Thursday night when Man City play Liverpool at the same time, it could be that it's absolutely right for Spurs. Otherwise, me personally, I would prioritise Manchester United on Friday night, and I would prioritise Leicester the next Tuesday night as well. But it could be a very good entry point for Spurs on that Thursday night, depending on the way the fixtures fall. And I think my priority would probably be Son.
Thoughts on Watford?
Start all day long.
6.5 million. Considering he's got 10 attacking returns in 13 starts, he's a good shout. Definitely. I had him before he got injured, unfortunately, and I'll probably be looking to get him back.
Yeah, look, they're in trouble. They still need points. Important to say, obviously, Deulofeu's out for the season, so he should be close to locked from that perspective as well. I'm intending to go to him this Saturday as it stands. I might rethink that, but that's my plan. Get him in. He offers great value, and then he sits there and he stays there.
West Ham, you're looking Jared Bowen, Antonio, either one of those two probably. Need to see what happens with rotation, but
I think so. I think Bowen's a really interesting one, isn't he?
Yeah, as soon as the fixture swing, you're not going to look at him before that, but once the fixture swing comes in, then he's a really good one to potentially look at.
He's 7.9. It's interesting. And I'm also interested in Antonio 8.2, just to see what the relationship is with Haller in these first couple of games. I think, again, it's one probably to strike back for game week 33 when they're meant to play Newcastle to see how that lands, because that run of fixtures, even if they don't have the single game days, they might be worth a punt. You know, Newcastle, Burnley, Norwich, Watford, Man United, Villa is the finish. And if they need points, I think Bowen or Antonio are really interesting options. I, like you, would favour Bowen, I think.
And last but not least, Wolverhampton Wanderers.
Yeah, plenty to choose from Wolves. I think Jimenez does remain the best shout because there are captaincy options coming up immediately. You could argue certainly the Wednesday against Bournemouth, and then they've got the single match day against Aston Villa on Saturday week. Those are definitely two you want to go into. And you can certainly make the case, say for someone who hasn't got Vardy and Aubameyang, you can certainly fall into Jimenez on Saturday. I'd probably rank Jimenez third out of the three playing yourself, but it's viable to go with him. Let's see how tired Aubameyang is at the end of tonight, for example, because that's my front two at the moment, Aubameyang and Jimenez. Jimenez definitely for me until those first three fixtures are gone. I think they're a priority, Wolves, if you haven't got any. I really, really do. If you're sitting there on 5-6 transfers, I would strongly think about working a way to perhaps get him in at 10.6 and not take the cheap option of Traore at 6.9. My thoughts are to come off Traore after the first three at the moment.
Cool. There we go. That's a rundown of all of the teams there. James, we've got a couple of quick Twitter questions that we can get through. Yeah. And then I've got to run as well because it's another working day. Will you bring in any extra City assets, or does the likely rotation put you off?
Question from?
That's Adam Byram.
Hello, Adam. Yes, De Bruyne. That's it. I think I need to have a bigger think about Aguero because I really didn't have time to think about it properly last night. I need to consider my options and escape routes and everything. So De Bruyne, yes. Aguero, probably not.
And do you have fear of captaining a City player tonight because of the rotation? That's a question from Glenn Roy. And would you rather just go with a safe option of a Sheffield United player?
Well, I can say that if I get Aguero in, I will captain him. That's now a definite. But again, you reference back to those points, De Bruyne and Aguero. Like if De Bruyne gets 33% on top of Aguero the rest of this season, that's big. De Bruyne's the one. De Bruyne's the one I'm happier to have sit there, I think.
We have a question from Joe Finley Badder. If you had Aguero and Aubameyang, would you captain Aguero? Oh, sorry. It's a question is, should I get Aguero or Aubameyang? Because Aubameyang gives me coverage for the Southampton and Norwich games.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going Aubameyang tonight. That's a priority for me. One way of doing it potentially for me, and in theory I can do it, is go Aguero tonight, bounce straight to Aubameyang on Saturday. That doesn't feel right. Doesn't feel right to me. I'm definitely going Aubameyang because of the fixtures afterwards. He's probably captain for those two other Arsenal games for me. So, yeah, Aubameyang for me.
We talked about Pereira replacements on the previous show. The doctor, really. Matt Doherty at the same price is a really good shout.
Decent. I mean, personally, if you haven't got any other Leicester, I think that's the best way to go. He's Syuncu. Justin is the differential gamble, but I just think with a 0.2 difference between the two, I think Syuncu on reliability, etc., passing tiers, and the odd tackle tier remains the more reliable choice. We don't really know what we're going to get from Justin in that perspective. So I think if you haven't got Syuncu and you haven't got any other Leicester coverage, that's the obvious one. You can obviously come down to Dan Burn and then do many things. That's another option. Or if you're covered with 4 or 5 at the back, then you can obviously head into Grealish and the like at very similar value. My transfer essentially is Pereira to Grealish, as I said last week.
There we go. Guys, thanks for tuning in to Sky Fantasy Football this morning. We are now hours away from the deadline, so just listen up, get in, make your moves, or don't, because you've obviously, it's not unlimited transfers or any of that kind of stuff that you have to worry about. Couple of quick points and notes for you. You've only got 48 hours now to vote for us in the Football Content Awards. We're up for the Best Fantasy Football Podcast. So if you head over to the Football Content Awards and in the section that's Fantasy Football Content, select Planet FPL from the drop down. You'll be able to vote for us there, and wherever you're getting your podcast. You can
vote for our friends Hub, who've obviously done their 2 Sky podcasts, which I need to catch up on both, actually. They're nominated in the editorial as well, so you can obviously dish them a vote there as well. I can't wait to listen, because I bet Dan Cox is going to say something like, that cheeky James at Planet FPL, he's got loads of fucking transfers left, you know. You know he likes a whinge, doesn't he?
There we go. But other than that, make sure you subscribe wherever you're catching the podcast. Don't tinker too much. Stay safe. Ciao for now.
And if you want to know why we didn't cover captains, we did all that shit last week. Good luck, everybody. Cue music, man, child.